So you want to start drifting and you want to do it on a budget? Well, in today's video, we're going to be breaking down everything that you need and how much it costs to get one of these SN95 new edges on the track.
I wonder what it feel like to do that shit in real life. And now I know I got it. That's the reason, no, I be inside me on a dotted, but it's still visionary to the death for me. Yeah, I'm trying to make it, but I gotta find a recipe. Greatest of all time, I want the world addressing me.
Alrighty, so I do want to preface beforehand, this is everything for the car, not including anything cosmetic. So the rattle can paint job, the new headlights I replaced, the taillights I replaced, as well as any drift spares, tires. This is specifically just things to get the thing actually ready to drive on the track. So now for the most important question of all, how much does it actually cost to put this whole thing together? So with every part that is included on this car, the total comes to $3,200. And I'll put the exact total right here. That is every part, component, everything listed on this car, everything that I could compile from a list of everything that's still available online. Everything from suspension, all of it. Every part and piece of the car that I could possibly come up with that I was able to still find online for this. One thing I do want to address is the angle on this car. So I do not run the conventional angle kit that most people have. I actually have a modified lower control arm and knuckle on this car, and it actually performs really, really well. I'll put a picture of it right here. So essentially, I want to address this first because this is one of the biggest costs that typically is associated with getting into drifting, is the angle suspension setup on the vehicle. And this is one part where I kind of cut a corner. I had a friend that had a Fox body and they were upgrading to FDF Mega Mantis kit, so I was basically given the hand-me-down kit that bolts directly to this car off of a Fox body. Now there's a few different angle kit choices for these. There's actually a lot more now than there was prior. So we now have Synergy, we have Duncan, Detroit Drift Co. There's a few others. I'll go ahead and put my most favorite options here on screen. So those are pretty much the best options for these at the moment in terms of getting angle, and I wanted to address it first because that's most commonly the question that everybody asks is, so what angle do you have? So that is the angle setup on this car. And it works really well for me. I get about 60, 65 degrees, something along those lines. And it's really not too bad. And I've been able to manage it and work it for a full season. So no complaints on how this car is. Alrighty, so going underneath the hood, this is the 3.9 V6. Nothing crazy, nothing done engine performance other than the actual cold air intake that is on the engine, which I'll list right here. It is right around $54. The price has kind of been varying the last couple of days due to sales and stuff. But yeah, 3.9 out of a 04 V6 Mustang. It's got somewhere in like the 120, 130,000 mile range. And it's been really good. It's made it to a T5 transmission. This comes stock standard in these cars for this year, but it's nothing fancy. Obviously there's a good amount of cheap build drift car things in the engine bay, but overall it is just a stock 3.9 V6. So I got this engine specifically for right around $450. There's obviously some tax, some shipping, and all the components for today that I'm leaving out because that's going to vary depending on where you live. But I got this engine specifically $400. Now the whole car itself I actually got as just a shell for $600, and it included the trans. So one of the cheaper mods and one of the first essential things that you actually need is a power steering cooler. You can see it tucked down in there. I have it zip tied to the rad. It's taken a few beatings from various cones and other things like that. I'll also put it on screen right here. But basically it just runs to the stock lines down there in the core support. and you just replace that metal line that runs along the bottom. And that's one of the first things that you should do. These stock pumps, as soon as you start drifting, they really don't like the heat and the temperature and the overworking of the motor, or of the pump, I should say. So it's one of the most important things for these is getting that taken care of, so that your pump doesn't blow out and you're not eating through pumps left and right. And the extra fluid capacity also does help as well. Next thing we have up is actually our steering wheel components. So these are two pieces. I'll go ahead and put those on screen here really fast. So it's two separate pieces. It's the actual hub here that adapts to the steering column, and then you have the quick release that then attaches here and then to the wheel. And all you have to do is just pull up on this and the wheel will detach. Now this price is also going to vary because everyone has a different preference when it comes to steering wheels. This one, lucky for me, already came in the car. It's a D&D wheel. I went ahead and priced out one that I would have chosen. But again, I was very much budget minded when picking this. So that is the wheel that I kept in it. And then in terms of a bucket seat, ignore all the garbage in the car. It is just a kind of a standard bucket seat. I went ahead and priced out one from NRG that's kind of similar. I think I used Sparco actually, and it's just mounted to the stock rail. There's no crazy modifications made. That is the stock seat rail. It has just got the adapter plate here that's been bolted onto it. Yeah. We do have a cheap eBay shifter. I did not include that because in the price breakdown, I wanted only the essentials needed to drift. You don't need a short throw shifter to go drifting. Obviously, it's a nice thing to have, but definitely not an essential. So moving on to the rear end of the car, this is where we start getting into kind of the little nitpicky things between V6 and GT. So since this is a V6 car, the gearing and the T5 and everything is different. So 410s are pretty much like the perfect gear ratio for these. You don't really want to go lower than that because then you start running into issues with bogging and kind of the power limitations of the stock motor. But if you have a GT, now this is where things get different. If you have a GT, you have an extra 60, 70 horsepower. So that kind of changes what you want in terms of a gear ratio. A lot of the GT guys I see running 373s or 355s. That seems to be the most popular and functional gear ratio for the rear. Because of these cars, the lower power, you need the higher ratio to really kick them going. And in some cases, on a really garbage tire or a really long track, you can run third. But primarily second gear is the goal for most of my cars. I also have seen success with obviously our buddy Nate running 456s in the rear in third in a GT. But again, completely different setup than what my car is. So for this, we're just running the 410s in the rear. Now that is a stock 7.5 rear end. GTs obviously have the 8.8, so there's going to be some price differences in terms of the gearing, as 410 gears for these are a little more expensive and harder to find. All right, so moving on to the rear end of the vehicle in terms of the suspension arms. I wasn't initially going to include these because they're not technically a necessity, but I think they have changed the performance and the way this thing drives so much that I needed to include them. So I went with these tubular arms. They're kind of the cheap ones. You can get cheaper ones on Amazon, but I went ahead and got kind of a name brand with max speeding odds. You know, name brand. But for this car, they absolutely changed the way the rear end feels. Before, I had a lot of like side-to-side movement in the rear end. It was kind of sloppy on clutch kicks and initiations, so I wanted to go ahead and include them because I feel they're mandatory to really tighten up the rear end and just make it better. Now they do make adjustable ones for anti-squat, which I would highly recommend. Looking into Chelsea Denofa's video on how to set up the rear suspension in one of these cars because it's extremely informative. But in terms of you're just starting out, you want something budget, you want something cheap, definitely go with those arms. It's going to tighten up the rear end, get rid of a lot of the wheel hop that these cars suffer from so much, as well as the upper bushings, which I'll put right here. Those help a lot as well in just securing those upper arms and making sure that you just don't have any slop in the rear end because it's the worst feeling in one of these cars. Okay, so now it is time for one of the most controversial points of the video is the coilovers that are on the car. Now, I am running max peating rods. I think they have handled fantastic for me. Obviously, they're one of the worst coilovers for these cars, but this is a budget build. So that being said, it is the best budget coilover, in my opinion, for these cars. If you're trying to just hit the track, you're just trying to get it out there, get some seat time, obviously, eventually upgrade. But for how cheap these things are, right here at $299, just about, I mean, you really can't beat what these things give you. I know there's obviously a lot of things. If you know about this community and about the SN95s, they do have a lot of issues in terms of integrity of their quality, things of that nature. A lot of people have had some rather bad failures with them, but for what this thing is, what we're trying to accomplish, I don't think they're bad at all. And just in my personal opinion and what I've had in terms of driving it, I think they're fine. But that is the coilover that I do run on this setup, and it's one of the easiest ways to get into drifting. Alrighty, so another thing that you're not going to see in this video actually is a hydraulic handbrake. Now, I do think these are a fantastic tool, but absolutely not required in order to get into drifting. This car does not have one. Anytime I've ever felt like I needed one in a situation, I either clutch in, slip the clutch, or I will left foot brake. It's been very effective for me. So that is why I have not included one in the video. There will be a breakdown of things that I want to add to the car and what we have coming up for the next season, obviously. But a hydraulic handbrake, not essential, not included. So something I do want to touch on, obviously this is a coupe. This is not a convertible. All of you SN95 New Edge guys that do have these soft top convertibles, almost every single track is going to require a 4-point roll bar for you to enter and for you to actually drive, just due to the safety. If there's ever a rollover or anything like that, that is not a requirement on the coupes. However, typically those roll bars that are bolt-in or weld-in, they run somewhere in the $500 to $600 range, which I have obviously the black Vert GT, but for the price of $600 I was able to secure this shell. So why destroy my nice convertible when I could just beat the hell out of this thing? But yeah, if you guys do have a Vert, you will need a roll bar. Another thing you are going to need, fire extinguisher. Very important. No track is going to let you on without a hard mounted fire extinguisher in a place that you can reach it. If I'm in my driver's seat, I can reach back and pull that safety strap there and pop it right out. Obviously the car hasn't been driving because we're not in season right now, so it's full of a bunch of spare parts and stuff. But these fire extinguishers, the most easy accessible, AutoZone. They're right by the front counter. I'll go ahead and link one right here and just grab one. You know, a lot of guys, it's like one of the last minute things. There's always parts stores on the way to the track. Make sure you have one. Another thing related to the angle kit on the car, we do have the Synergy extended tie rod ends, just to make the cut knuckle and the stock control arm and everything kind of work. It is one of the cheaper options. I'm sure I could have got like a normal bump steer kit and maybe made that work, but I just wanted to have the certainty of knowing that these rod ends were going to have the right amount of length to work on the car. So I'll go ahead and throw these right here. They're around, I think they were $135, so they're not too bad, but definitely a necessary expense to make the angle kit work for this car. And obviously one of the last things for this car, since I did buy it as a shell and no engine, just a shell with a transmission, I did end up actually needing a clutch. I went with this Ram's clutches here off of Amazon, one of the cheapest ones I could find. I believe it's just an OE replacement essentially. But that's what I've been running in this car. It lasted me an entire season. I believe I did 14 events in 2024 and about 4 more in 2025, so it's been really reliable. And there's a leaf blower going, but yeah, it's been super nice for me. It feels great. It feels like OE in terms of grab and travel. It's still got the stock cable and obviously a stock T5. But yeah, that's been really successful for me. I'm honestly extremely surprised. I really expected to burn through it or blow it within the first couple events, but it's actually been extremely solid for me. Again, like I said previously, this is without the giant stack of drift spares and everything that we have to actually go and drift. You are gonna need these. I spent about $200 for a set of 4 on Facebook per these. I didn't go ahead and include it in the main total because you can drift on your stock wheels and just bring a set of tires. A lot of places have tire change places. It really depends, and it's completely dependent on if you want the stock American muscle wheels or if you want to change styles, you know, be tasteful, unlike me. But that's the main reason I didn't include anything like that, because it's just not an essential or anything that you really need to hit the track. Obviously you need tires, but the video is primarily for the breakdown of everything mechanically to get the car ready. Yeah, so overall, it's one of the cheapest ways to go ahead and get into drifting is this SN95 platform. It has been absolutely amazing to me. It's been extremely reliable, which we'll get into here in the next video as far as what's going on with the reliability of this thing, why it's been parked and why I haven't been driving. But overall, the chassis is extremely cheap. It's extremely affordable. The community is absolutely fantastic. Some of the best friends that I've ever had are related to this community and within the drifting community. So this chassis has opened my eyes. I have huge plans for it in the future. But it's honestly, my goal from the get-go was start drifting as cheap as possible, and this platform has allowed me to do so. And it's been a ride. It's a riot to drive. It's extremely raw. It's by no means perfect. It's by no means the best. This is probably one of the worst setups that most new edge people could run, but it's what's cheap and it's what I like, and cheap's what I like as well. So that's why I put this thing together. I think the wheels are more expensive than most of the parts on the actual car itself. But I have big plans for it in the future. But overall, I can't complain with what I built. I know it performs a certain way because I built it cheap, and that's okay. And a lot of people might want to replicate this to do something similar because they can see what I can do with the thing and how far you can get with just $3,200. That being said, if you do want to build this with a proper angle kit, the same specs, it's right around $4,000, and that's including the engine price and the shell price. Obviously, that can depend on, you know, if you find a cheaper shell, if you find a better price on certain parts, if there's deals, you know, you hit things on Black Friday sales or something along that, or you have coupon codes. There's a million ways to try to save money when putting one of these together. So get out there, figure it out, whatever you got to do, make it happen, start driving, get your seat time in. And yeah, let's run some doors hopefully in the future. Hope you guys enjoyed this breakdown of the New Edge V6 Mustang. Like I said, I'll have a update video coming very soon of what the future holds for this thing. But that being said, thank you for watching. See you later.